something that I've been working with for the last 20 years, exclusively in nonprofit technologies. And from there, one of the biggest things you learn is the technology is not the biggest driver of how these things work. It's the strategy that works. And so what I wanted to do today was really just kind of lay out 4 nonprofit strategies. They kind of build on one another and are related to one another, and give people the lay of the land for how to deal with CRM. So first thing is to get us all on a common definition of CRM. So the definition that I like the best is an institutional memory about interactions with all constituents that is used to further your mission. And you see a little blue circle there and a little orange circle there. CRM means different things to different people. So oftentimes in a donor database kind of context, you're worried about who are my prospects, who are the people that I'm going to ask for money, how do I relate to them, and then once they commit to giving me money, that's kind of the end of the cycle. You'll see there that that's kind of lead and prospect. Again, most CRMs are kind of built out of a business context, so we use some of those terms. But qualify, meet, those are all your interactions, your tracking meetings, calls with people. But then there's a whole other side of CRM. When you think of your clients, you think of if you're an advocacy organization relating to folks, you want them to take action. You want to provide them with services. You want to do follow-ups and see what happened. And so I like this definition that kind of allows you to get a decision for yourself about what's the most important here and where are your needs. Because everybody's needs are different in this space, which is just a 100% truth. All right, so just wanted to give people a sign of kind of what CRMs are. The simplest CRM, just keep track of a list of people, would be Google Contacts. I've got my list of people. I can keep my addresses in there. If you're using something like Google Apps, you can have a shared contact list across your organization, so there's a single version of the truth. And then you go off to the other end, and these are screenshots from NetSuite, and with that you have lots of activities. You can record phone calls, you can record events and tasks and files and send communications out directly from the system. You have analytical capabilities. You can provide key performance indicators on what's happening. You can actually import data directly from web forms into your CRM and then take action on them. You can have reminders. So there's a more sophisticated view of what's happening. And usually in those sophisticated systems, you have one dashboard to tell you all the things that are going on with that donor, all the interactions across the organization, all the interactions with the client, whatever it happens to be. So that's kind of the spectrum from simple to complex. We always try to remind people with CRM is it all starts with strategy, and there is there's a reason for this. So most people say, hey, I need CRM to solve my problem. What problem does CRM solve? Well, it really depends, and what kind of CRM, and it's a big space, and so you have to figure out what your strategy is before you can even start talking about the technology. And so the big questions you ask yourself to determine strategy are one is, how do you work with and or serve your constituents? So who are my constituents, and what do I really want? What do I do with them, and what's important for me to keep track of? What's the most important part of your mission vis-a-vis constituents? So if you're an advocacy organization, getting them to call their congressman might be the most important thing you're doing. If you're serving homeless clients, getting them a bed at the right night that they need it is the most important thing you're doing. It'll be unique for every organization. And then what critical organizational or business processes involve your constituents? So when you look at what people do every day, what they spend their time on, what are the really critical pieces that involve your constituents? And then there are some general problems that CRM solves. Tends to provide that institutional memory piece. It tends to start to solve the disconnected data silos, but you can have two disconnected CRM systems and still create silos. And it tends to create a complete view of the constituent. But one of the things that can get you in trouble really quickly is starting to hear all the cool things that CRM can do. And there are endless possibilities, and it can do all kinds of things. And quite frankly, figure out your strategy first, then figure out which features are relevant to the strategy, and basically completely ignore all the other features that aren't relevant to the strategy. Because the space is so big and it's so confusing, you need something to organize yourself. So we're going to talk about 4 CRM strategies. And the ones that I have laid out kind of build upon one another. And almost no organization just has one strategy. They do a little bit of kind of everything. For the folks on the call, roughly the dominant folks were the contacts there at the bottom. I'm just starting out. And the silos. Contacts at the top, silos at the bottom. Silos tends to be much more sophisticated organizations. So it sounds like we have on the call today both sides. But the problem that the contact strategy solves is we just need to know who we know. Right? And the classic version is I have to go over to the executive director's office and look at their post-it notes to figure out who the important donors are this week. I have to walk over to the other building to look at the client services database to see which clients were really important. Relationships takes it another level. It's trying to understand how the constituents interact with us. Again, in fundraising, that's going to be a lot more of who's the program officer of this foundation that we're going to go talk to, who is related to whom, is somebody on a congressional staff person for advocacy. The examples are kind of all over the place. But it's really about, I got 2 constituents in my database and I need to know how they interact with one another. The third one is money and revenue, and there's really 2 versions of this. There's the donor database version of this, which is I just need to know who's going to generate the most revenue so I can pursue my mission. But then another version of this that's not often thought about is the expense side of this. So this is more of the client management side. So my constituents are receiving services from me. Which of my constituents are the most expensive or the least expensive to serve? And so where's the most quote bang for my buck? And then finally, whether you need an infrastructure to accommodate changing needs and multiple dynamic CRM strategies, that's where you kind of get into the silos space. And that is, again, more sophisticated, more effort on your part, and a lot of people will start slow and move through these phases. The other kind of common statement I wanted to make sure we were all on the same page with is what it means to implement a CRM. And the first piece of this is a CRM really isn't about software. It's not turning on software and putting data in. The first part is define your strategy. The second part is document and improve your process. So if your process is to walk over to your executive director's office and look at the post-it notes on their wall, that's probably not a process that you want to automate. You probably want to improve the process. The executive director, puts information in one place. You put information in one place. Everybody looks in that one place to get the information. And this really doesn't have a whole lot to do with software. So folks that get afraid of technology, these are pieces of paper that you can write down on the back of an envelope. It can be 2 dot points in an email. It doesn't have to be big, fancy documents that you paid a whole lot of money to consultants to do. But you do have to do the steps. The third step is then once you kind of know what process you're going to automate, then you want to put it in the software. And then that's the software piece. Now you got to go actually test it. Does it work? Oh, usually it doesn't work the first time around. You revise it a couple of times until it's acceptable, and then you launch it and you have everybody use the process. So that is what implementing a CRM is, and it's very little about software. Now the folks that then want to know what the software piece